So in this video, you're going to hear testimony or a confession from a Mason. I'm not sure whether he's an ex-Mason or he's still currently a Mason, but he's going to confess about the gang stalking program and how it uses certain features, and you're going to hear two very important words, and after the video we'll be able to discuss what the importance of those words and what those words or those terms actually mean for us or for the world in its entirety. The video, I've seen it maybe 2 years ago, so it was from 2020 when the video first surfaced, and I guess this is the opportune time for us to get into what the significance of the video is. So let's get into it.
Masons, what's good with you? I've been wanting to make this video for a long time now. And I'm here to shed some light on what you may be potentially going through wherever you are. And with that being said, let me begin by saying that I have invited the darkness into my life and unknowingly sold my soul to the devil. And what I'm about to tell you is some real info. And this info right here goes way beyond federal level shit. And what I'm about to leak is from a Masonic group, which I cannot disclose. I'm pretty much talking about the true agenda of the New World Religion and the Mark of the Beast, which is related to the FBI's COINTELPRO. I would like to begin by indicating that I, myself, played in a role blacklisting all kinds of minorities, activists, and even some righteous ones, also known as targeted individuals, with a goal of psychologically distorting their minds. If any of y'all think I'm bullshitting about this shit, check out the YouTube videos of all the victims, also known as TIs, suffering from this harassment. Peep that shit out. And to all my brothers wondering why I'm betraying my Masonic oath, is because, let me tell you why. I'm sick and tired of taking some nonsense orders through synthetic telepathy. Y'all bombarding my mind with some outrageous orders. You know, I wouldn't have joined this shit if I had known this was the mark of the beast. Now y'all got me waist deep in this shit. I have been loyal to y'all for about 15 years now. And I feel like my mind is a slave to the system. I hope many of y'all can feel me on that one. First of all, they offered me a job and the pay is not that great. On top of that, I had to do some work on the side to ruin someone's life. And second, what the fuck happened to selling your soul for fortune and fame? You know, I don't know. I guess I'm just pissed off at the fact that I just sold my soul for chump change, you know? Because last time I remember, the devil was dishing out Ferraris, penthouse, and all that good shit. And man, this shit right here is the mark of the beast. And it says in the Bible that you cannot buy or sell unless you have the mark. That means you won't have a job unless you're a part of the secret society. Excuse me for a second right now. At the moment, I'm being bombarded by the FBI. They're, they are erasing my thoughts, and I'm having cognitive speech problems. I'm aware of their tactics, so yeah. Excuse me. Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Um, let me just move on real quick. All right. I want to finish this shit. All right. Yeah, to the agents in my mind right now, this is for you, man. Of course, I know the golden rule. But you know what? I'm not trying to go to hell for them, you know? And I know this is not going to set and I know this is not going to set things right with God for the shit I done in the past for y'all. But y'all need to hear me out. I mean, everyone that's part of the secret society, y'all need to hear me out. I'm sure a lot of y'all are aware that we are in Revelations, and there's a symbolic meaning toward dragon and the beast. John, who wrote the Revelations, refers to the dragon as a government, which stands for power and respect. The beast represents for the ones who are enslaved. And I'm sure y'all heard the phrase, the beast must be tamed, right? You know what that is? That's enslavement. The word mark doesn't mean a physical mark on your right hand or your forehead. Y'all got that wrong. The word mark represents the chosen one. You know what? Excuse me again. So let me recite some notable verses from Revelation 13. This is right here. I highlighted some verses from the New International Version, NIV. So verses 2, verse 2. Man, I can't even talk. I can't even fucking talk right now. So bear with me here. They are extremely mad right now. The beast I saw resemble a leopard, had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throat and great authority. So let me talk about this power they have given us. Once you stay loyal to the game, right? You get your own credentials to get into individual's mind. Basically, mentally driving them insane. And you will also have the authority to stay anonymous and pretend to someone they know. Oh man, it was going good for a second, but yo, my mind is bugging out right now, you know? I'm gonna try my best here. So Verse 7. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. So, now let's talk about verses 7. Y'all already know this shit is going on everywhere in this world. And the majority of the world population will then be under one religion. Verse 16. He also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads. So they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the name or the number of its name. So, now this is where it gets interesting, man. So let's talk about verses 16 and 17, right? It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. Everyone up in this bitch is enslaved to the system. If you can't be tamed, you are useless to them. Also, the scripture mentioned the markers on your forehead. And this is true. This technology is based on our brainwave signatures. I can't go into details right now, but you should be aware that once you are born, your DNA is likely to be stored by the government's National Biobank. What a crazy world, huh? Welcome to the Matrix, to all the newborn babies. Well, that's that for now. So let me know what y'all think. Is our souls getting hustled by the federal government? And I have listed the video as Creative Commons. So please remember to share the video and get the word out. Maybe then you have a better chance to get to heaven. Till then, I'll catch you on the flip side.
We heard two terms that was used in the video, and it was synthetic telepathy, and that was the first term, and then the second term was biobanking. So first we'll get into what synthetic telepathy is and how it implements itself into the gang stalking program and the methods that it used to, I want to say, be effective and to be effective. So we'll talk about synthetic telepathy. Synthetic telepathy, okay? So, I have a breakdown, and I also have a video that's here on YouTube where, you know, they have, I believe, a reporter and maybe a scientist or a researcher discussing the effects of synthetic telepathy.
Now it's the story of a hacker turned neuroscientist. Dr. Morin Cerf is fascinated by the human brain. For years now, he's been studying how and why people believe, perceive, experience, and decide. But his teachings come with a warning. Do not trust your own brain. Joining me from NYC is Morin Cerf, Professor of Neuroscience at Northwestern University. Mr. Morin, thank you very much indeed for being with us. Is it possible to hack the human brain, and is it as easy as hacking a computer?
It's actually probably easier because you're going to help us with that. The reality is that in order to put an idea in your mind and make you believe it, all I need to do is put a little kind of glimpse of an idea and then ask you to explain this small nugget of an idea that I put there. And once you are asked to explain it, you can actually create and amplify the idea. You'll build a set of associations in your mind and you'll start believing it more. So all I have to do is maybe change one thing that you don't notice, ask you, why do you think this is the case? And you're going to come up with an elaborate story that would convince you that this was your idea, that you came up with, and then believe in it entirely.
Now, Dr. Cerf, neurons and tech are merging faster than ever, and that could soon have an impact on the way we make decisions, couldn't it?
So I think that the idea of tech and neuroscience is something that's been interesting to companies for a while. In the last couple of years, we had a lot of companies from the big ones, Facebook, Google, Amazon, who have been incorporating neuroscience into their offering and how they kind of do their business, how they study their customers and how they understand. But more than that, the reality is that we're now starting to understand how you can actually influence a person to change their mind and behave in a certain way. And a lot of companies are interested in that because this tackles the very idea of free will. When Amazon can not just know what you want, but actually start offering you things that you didn't know you want because they know you better than yourself, that's when we're heading into a world where your brain interacts with the outside world behind your back.
Now, you've also studied dreams quite a bit. Can deciphering their meaning be a key to our brains?
Yes, so dreams in a way have been fascinating for people for millennia. We always thought that they mean something. If you don't believe me, you can just try to tell your boyfriend or your husband in the morning that you dreamt of your ex-boyfriend and see how they respond. They think that dreams mean something whether they do or they not. And for the first time in history, we can actually access them and understand them. Up to now, in the days of Freud and Jung and all of those, we had to ask you to tell us what you dreamt and believe that this is the story. But what we're learning right now is that we can actually get access to your dreams using neuroscience when you're sleeping and understand what they're telling us. And the stories that they tell us something about who you are, what you want, how you think about the future, what you want to do next, and how you think about all kinds of possibilities. This means that we'll understand you better. This means that we can actually control the world around you better in alignment with what you want. And it also means we can start manipulating your dreams by creating dreams for you. So you can go to sleep with a dream that I set up for you. Maybe a filmmaker like Spielberg could make dreams for people and so on. And at the very least, you can go to sleep after a nice evening and continue the evening in your sleep. It becomes a canvas that companies like Netflix, YouTube, Hulu, or Tech24 can put content in. And generally, it's the ultimate virtual reality, one that our brain creates for us.
Well, we promise that we won't be doing this here on Tech24. Dr. Morin Cerf, Professor of Neuroscience at Northwestern University, thank you very much for your insight. Well, it's time to welcome our in-house expert, Dhananjay Kadalkar. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Julia.
We just saw that our dreams can be influenced. It was quite scary there, what I just heard. But this is not just restricted to humans. Scientists have been able to implant synthetic memories in birds. Tell us more about that.
Well, yes, scientists from the University of Texas Southwestern have managed to implant synthetic dreams into the brains of young zebra finches by using a technique called optogenetics. Now, these dreams relate to the length of the syllables of a song that these birds normally learn from their parents. But in this case, they didn't have any tutor to teach them these syllables. Now, optogenetics, as the name suggests, consists of optics and genetics. The first stage is to basically insert genes into neurons of a specific region of a brain, which is called NIF, which stands for nucleus interfacialis. And then these neurons are genetically engineered so that they can respond to light stimulation. And then this light stimulation manipulates the activity of the neurons in the NIF region, and it also controls the interaction between this region and another region which is called the HVC, or the high vocal center. Now, this results in the creation of this synthetic memory, and interestingly, the exposure time to the light. So the light stimulation is typically between 50 millisecond and 300 millisecond. Now, for the 50 millisecond exposure, the length of the syllable is the shortest, and for a 300 millisecond exposure, the length of the syllable of these birds is the longest. So the stimulation of light, the length, it clearly affects how the memories are created. Now, interestingly, for human beings, this could offer clues as to which part of the brain we should look into in order to better understand conditions that affect language.
Now, VR and robotics could also become important tools when it comes to trying to relive memories.
Well, yes, a California-based company called 8i has brought together virtual reality headsets and volumetric video contents. Now, these volumetric videos are shot by using dozens of cameras. And so, for example, if you want to have a film of a friend or a near and dear one, you can use this technology, and you don't get just a 2D picture. You can have great resolution on a 4K screen, but 8K screen. But with volumetric videos, these are 3D holograms. So you can actually move around the object in the picture. You can get close to it. You can peer into it. So you can imagine how immersive these experiences are. So this is one way of enriching our experiences of the memories.
Dhananjay Kadolkar, thank you very much. We're going to move on to test 24.
So we just seen from neuro scientists and their input on the effectiveness of how synthetic telepathy is being carried out, how it's being used on birds, and how it's actually more easier to hack the human mind than it is a computer. So what I have seen in my research was that certain drugs open up your neural transmitters or your neural receptors. They have ability to influence what you receive and what you transmit. And those drugs are mainly marijuana is one of them, and with limited ability, but to a higher capacity, heroin is, that drug which allows you to be manipulated more effective. Matter of fact, that along with crack cocaine also has the ability to influence your neurotransmitters. But I also have a website where you can go and see all of the drugs and its correlation to neuroreceptors and neurotransmitters. So let's get into what synthetic telepathy is. Synthetic telepathy is another form of artificial intelligence. If it's an intelligence that's synthetic is another word for artificial. And if you have a thought that's artificial, then that would be artificial intelligence. So this is AI technology and the human brain. So as I stated before, they was trying to make humans AI, and certain things that humans pick up on makes them AI. Just the idea of, everything or life revolving around currency is a way to program the mind to believe that this is what life or reality is all about, when, there's much more to life than, just money and material things, fashion. Like a certain people is geared to focus on their appearance as opposed to what things appear to be. And we'll get into that, or that's another story for another story. But here I have a definition. What is synthetic telepathy? Well, It is basically an artificial means of transmitting feelings or thought between mind and device over a distance without using the traditional senses. Synthetic telepathy describes the communication between a computer and the human mind. It enables the correspondence of thought between any given individual and the computer system operators. Furthermore, distance is not a barrier when it comes to this kind of communication. So it's a communication between a computer operator and the human mind. See, for me, that's why I'm cautious of using terms like, a download, because things are downloaded from a certain server. This is how computers work. When I download something, it's coming from a server. And this is receiving something that's being sent. The server is transmitting something towards the computer. And that is how you download. So I would never use the term like, I got a download, or something told me to say this, because, I know that in this reality, a lot of things aren't always what they appear to be. So we have to be mindful of what type of thoughts we're receiving and who we're receiving them from. Like I spoke about, prophetic word a lot. Like I spoke about prophetic word. And, there's teams and teams and teams of people that's giving you the same exact message, but with different faces. And are these people being downloaded with information from a server, or is this actually God speaking to them? This is what you have to say. When they say stuff like, God says this, or God told me that you're looking for ellipsis, P, then ellipsis, such and such, like they want you to actually look at what is it that God said, so they don't give you the whole message, but they'll say God said about you, and so that would make you want to go and check out that video, like, what did God say about me and my significant other, so we have to be mindful about who's sending or receiving messages from what. But we do have this thing called synthetic telepathy. Matter of fact, one time when I went to see one of my peoples, and when I left from his house, I normally turn left, but something made me turn right, and I didn't know why, but something made me turn right. And when I turned right, the police had jumped out on me and locked me up. Like the police was waiting in the car, and they just looked at me and they see me. It was about 4 police officers. And they jumped out on me and they locked me up. And I felt as though I was being controlled. So later on in this video, I'm going to tell you how they were able to get samples from me to be able to do that. And it comes from one of the gang stalkers that, was amongst me and was able to give them, probably samples, which is going to go into the topic of biobanking. But for now, we're going to stay on the synthetic telepathy. So how does it work? This technology may seem futuristic. However, experiencing synthetic telepathy, or indeed artificial telepathy, is not too much of an extraordinary experience. It is, in fact, as simplistic as if receiving a telephone call in one's mind. The majority of the involved technology is very similar to that used in mobile phone technology. Satellites provide an interface between the sender and the collector. A computer multiplexer routes the sender's voice signals via microwave towers to a particular characterized area or a cell. A multiplexer of MUX, and that's in quotations and inside of parentheses. You see, if you could see that. Yeah, I think you could. It's basically a device which allows the combination of analog and or digital signals with higher speed devices to operate on a single shared medium or device. It provides bulking of signals in direct and wireless telephony. I guess that's the word, telephony. 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 Internet communications and digital broadcasting. The signal locates the receiver with exact accuracy to usually feet away from the real location. The difference with this technology is that this all occurs in the human brain and not in telephonics. We have all had those moments where, with absolute clarity, we know some information or perhaps a voice relaying them. This technology works exactly this way. However, the human skull has no firewall to block these signals. The brain houses complex systems which are actually the nerve center of the whole body. Clearly, much electrical activity occurs within the brain, sending signals via neurons to other parts of the body to indicate actions to be taken. The human brain and computers share a common language, which is essentially electronic impulses. Synthetic telepathy reads electrical activity using an electroencephalograph or EEG. The communication is split into two spheres: passive, where listening is achieved, and active, where transmission is made. How can it be made? So they want to know how can the communication between a satellite and the brain be made, or how can it be used? The application of this technology is vast, as it would provide an invisible form of silent communication. It could mean that eventually humans could command instructions to computers and other devices simply by use of thought. The Duke University monkey experiment in 2008 demonstrated that this technology was very effective. Indeed, a female monkey called Idoia was implanted with electrodes which collected electrical data from the motor and sensory brain areas as the monkey walked at different speeds on a treadmill. This data from the 12-pound monkey was then transmitted in real time from Durham, North Carolina to 5 feet tall, 200-pound humanoid robot in Kyoto, Japan. Miraculously, the monkey was able to make the robot move by thought alone. The monkey was able to make a robot move by thought alone from North Carolina all the way in Kyoto, Japan. That is a very, very extraordinary thing to actually be able to see, hear, and to speak, to tell. It's an extraordinary thing. This is extraordinary. A monkey could make a robot move from North Carolina all the way to Japan. You could send that type of information. That's some technology. So, miraculously, the monkey was able to make the robot move by thought alone. Neuroscientist Miguel A.L. Nicolas from Brazil believes that one day scientists will be able to read decode, and send the signal in both ways. That is not only to first communicate movement, but also to send tactile feedback to the somatosis sensor cortex of the brain, somatosensory, which is SOMATOSENSORY, cortex of the brain. This part of the brain processes sensory information so that feel can be experienced as well as greater spatial awareness. This technology could have great benefit in the medical field where individuals with conditions where they cannot control their limbs could use synthetic telepathy to firstly communicate. Ultimately, this technology could potentially afford full movement. Similar technologies are already being used in search engines and intelligent assistants like Siri. While currently requiring direct interaction, thought-based actions will not be far down the line. Clearly, the military and intelligence agencies have invested heavily in this technology as it enables secret communication to troops, spies, and other intelligence staff. Furthermore, as discrete interfaces become available, it will enable agents to interface with technology invisibly, taking the world of James Bond to another level. Linked to electromagnetics, this technology has implications for every aspect of the existence of humanity, including surveillance, invasive, radar, physical well-being, and ultimately impact our environment. At the point when it is used in a non-lethal weapons framework, it turns into a perfect means for killing or defaming a political adversary. Hold up. All right. At the point when it is used in a non-lethal weapons framework, it turns into a perfect means for killing or defaming a political adversary. Peace protesters, inconvenient columnists, and the pioneers of vocal opposition parties can be dazed into silence through use of this weapon. Synthetic telepathy could be utilized for telemetry, remote control, medicinal services, and two spheres: passive where only listening occurs, or active when transmission is made, in addition as a tool for the government for mind control. These are some negative aspects of it. Neuroscientists in numerous nations say they fear these new strategies and request a moral, open deliberation before it is past the point of no return. They bring up that the potential for this type of technology to be abused is great, as it is such a great way to influence anyone's behavior and opinion. The issue is that synthetic telepathy can become an ideal weapon for mental torment and secret data theft. It provides an extremely effective means to be misusing or debugging, harassing, controlling, and assaulting the brain of any individual on Earth. It can act like an open window to quasi-demonic ownership of someone else's spirit. Synthetic telepathy additionally offers a perfect means for the invasion of an individual's privacy. In the event that all thoughts can be read and made use of, then passwords, PIN numbers, and individuals' insider facts just cannot be ensured protection. So there's already groups of people that is aware of the detriment of the ability to invade the thoughts or to send thoughts and influence one's behaviors or their thoughts. So that is without, question, an invasion of privacy. That is in the lines of being, having your privacy violated, which, me, I experienced that on, numerous accounts. I had a thought and I see things and I hear, people online telling me, they're still in your dreams or they're still in your thoughts. And I feel them still in my thoughts. And then I would see somebody with the same thoughts that I have. Like I would see them, like some of the people that they implement as, I guess, a puppet to use as a puppet. They would have or say some of the same exact things that I'm thinking, or they would have images of certain things that I already seen. So this technology is already being used. And as I already indicated, that one time I left from out of one of my friend's house. He's not even a friend. So this is back when I smoked bud. I went to buy bud from him. And when I left, I normally go left to go home. For some reason, I went right. Something made me turn right. I turned and I walked up the street. And the police was just riding and sitting in the car. And they like this, and they just hopped out on me. Didn't ask me if I had anything, didn't see me with anything. I was in a house, mind you, I was in a house. And this is just marijuana, But I felt as though I was being controlled, I was being controlled, like I felt it. Like, oh, what the hell am I going right for? Why am I turning? Why am I walking up? Why I'm going this way when I'm supposed to be going this way? So the technology is being used, and I bear witness to it. Like I'm a first-hand account. This is the one thing I'm not going to do. Falsehood don't sit right with me. So I would never be able to come on here and tell you anything that's untrue with the intentions of being able to get some sort of acclaim. First and foremost, everybody don't want acclaim. Everybody don't like acclaim. Me, I'm just who I am. So whether it's here or anywhere else, wherever I go, I'm always going to be seen because, the light stays with me, and that's not me being braggadocious or telling you something like, oh, I got to know. I don't want to be seen, but it's nothing that I can do about me being me. There's nothing I can do. I could be dressed in rags and people will still see me and identify the light. I could be dressed in nothing and people will still see me and identify me with, the light. So everybody don't care nothing about, acclaim, but I'm not going to style and say that happened when it didn't happen. I left from out the guy's house and something made me turn right. And while I'm turning right, I'm conscious, I'm aware that I'm not supposed to be walking this way. Why am I walking this way? And then police just hop out. But not only that, but when they got me to the station, boy, did I give it to them. Not that I ripped them. I told them so much about them that they had no choice but to just say, hey, man, we got the wrong guy here. Let him go. Man, I told them so much about them that they just said, man, get out of here. About their family, about them, about everything, and who I was. And I guess they just didn't understand that some of us aren't regular people. But it's crazy, man. And that was at least around about, I want to say, at least around about 3 or 4 years ago that event transpired. And I did, that actually transpired. So I'm definitely not going to, fabricate anything that didn't happen to me. But more so, I have more control over my thoughts than any or whatever could. I'm not easily controlled like I told you in the other video, people always wonder what this was, and Egypt. No, this precedes Egypt. They don't even know what this is. This is what the Bible would call the rod and the staff. This is the rod and the staff. And if you are aware of the power of this would comfort you in a world where people want to control you. This would comfort you. My rod and my staff, it comforts me. This is the staff, and this is the rod and the staff. The rod is what disciplines me. It gives me discipline. Discipline is correction. And the staff is what I'm going to pull myself away from that. This means control. So we all have the ability to correct and direct our own self, but then you have others that want to correct you and direct you. That's all in the form of mind control, or if you control the mind, wherever the mind goes, the body follows. So that is a part of the mind control, of not being able to control yourself. And you all know 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, God gives you the power of self-control and sound mind. So anything that's interfering with your ability to control yourself and your sound mind is interfering with your ability to communicate with you and God. You know what I mean? It's interfering with your ability to correspond with God, and God gives you that self-control. So anybody trying to take that away is trying to take the power of God away. So that's what these people are normally trying to do. They're trying to control you through, either fear tactics or, whatever. But it don't work with everybody. And that's what that means. That's what this means. I'm not with none of these groups or none of that stuff. No, I'm not with none of that. I'm not with any of that. But my rod and my staff, that's what comforts me through the valley of shadow of death. This is what you would call this place. So positive uses of it, which there probably can't be any kind of positive. It probably can, but because we have an abusive nature, we're always going to abuse things as opposed to using it in its intended purpose. Matter of fact, I've heard a YouTuber say one time that a civilization is a military ran, it's just a military occupied. No, that's not what a civilization is. A civilization is when humanity is dealing with kindness and generosity towards the fellow humanity. They're being civil with each other. So they're being kind and compassionate. They're fueled off of love. Now, what he's talking about is an empire. An empire is ran by military might. So they use war tactics in order to maintain control. These are two different things. Civilizations fail once the implementation of empires came. And once you establish an empire, they use certain things like religion to keep you in check. So this is what happened to civilizations. They fell to empires. That's why they say the sun never sets on the British Empire, which means that the British Empire owns majority of everything from this part of the world to that part of the world. In order to maintain that, they have to have some sort of military might. So they have to have some sort of stronghold that keeps you in bondage to them of something, whether it's religion, whether it's money, whether it's anything, but they have to use something to keep you in check, as opposed to using love, compassion, kindness, and things like that to keep you afloat. So this is the difference between a civilization and an empire. So that YouTuber, he's a huge YouTuber, gets millions of views, and he's being funded, I guess, by, I don't know, but that was an inaccurate analysis of what a civilization is. Civilization is not military occupied. That's why I told you about when King Tut left. When King Tut that was a civilization. After King Tut and them was taken out, then the implementation of others that came, they was military leaders like Horemheb, then Ramses, then the other Macedonians, then other Greeks, then Romans, then all the other people. These was military controlled people. They controlled things by military might, and they established empires as opposed to establishing civilizations. And one thing we want to tell you about is, the structure of Rome, so you can understand who the Romans are and their influence on the world today. Because that's where homelessness was, prevalent back in ancient Rome. Homelessness was real prevalent. And, the things that they did to homeless people back in the days was, atrocious. They did a whole bunch of atrocious things to people that didn't have things. So, no. So does it have positive uses? It may, but we're not going to get into all that, because this is about the program that the guy spoke about, and this was one of the things that he spoke about. Synthetic telepathy. They bombarded his mind with these outrageous tasks, like when I could be walking up the street, like a prostitute, or somebody would come up, and they use the homeless too. They would come up to you and ask you things, and this is what they use. They use prostitutes. This is where drug trafficking and sex trafficking and all that stuff come from. So the same program, sex trafficking. Like in my city, none of the females that's out there is from out here. They're all from out of the area, and they're brought here in a certain area where drugs is rampant at, and they solicit prostitution in that area, and that's what you would call sex trafficking. If you're not from here, and they know you're not from here, but allow you to come out here or allow you to be out here, I see you interacting with them. Matter of fact, I see them interacting with, military. Like, a guy would pull up with the U.S. Marines on the back of his car, and they would come to the car and just sit there and, talk to him, and then go about so this is a technology that's being used on them. Maybe they don't know, maybe they do know, but they're being used, they're being manipulated, or they're being enslaved to a certain system that's, I can only give you, the truth about what I understand. And if I'm wrong, then, I could be wrong, but I'm not. But the list goes on and on about that process. I gave you, use cases and how it also affected me as me being part of in the program, and like I said, I don't know how I got in, how they continue to use the program on me in particular, but they getting what they bargained for, because I know and I understand things, so I just don't understand them, I also feel them, so I feel things as well. So that's what this is how you get the bargain. This is how you get the bargain. But so we're going to have that, and we're going to say that a synthetic telepathy would be called a download. A download, and it could also be received as a revelation. A revelation. It's a revelation. So it's something that could be revealed to you through a thought, through a synthetic thought, and it might be something that you might believe is real, and you might want to go and reveal it. So that would be all in the line with, you know, revelation. And he also spoke about revelation, which you seen on the wall. I have, you know, 666 over humanity, over man. 666 is on top of man, humanity, because 666, which is 18, if you add them all together, and 18 is the symbol or the number, the biblical number for bondage, where, you know, you have Revelation 13:18, and Revelation 13 is lawlessness. So lawlessness and is what humanity is in bondage to. If we look at the structure, this lawlessness, everything that the Bible tells us don't do, that's not right for us to do, our entertainers tell us to do it. And these are the people that influence us, our entertainers, whether it's R&B artists, whether it's rap artists, whatever it is that the Bible is against, they're telling you to do it. If the Bible says thou shalt not kill, you'll have many of rappers telling you shooting guns and kill and this, that, and the third, and, you know, or the Bible says, you know, don't have sex until wedlock. You'll have people telling you to lust, and, you know, lusting over a female and having love songs, and, you know, this is what we vibe into. This is the thing that we feed our spirit. Whatever it is that the Bible tells us don't do in order to be good, they're telling you to do, so you can't be good, and they're good off of telling you to not be good. So we're in bondage to lawlessness, and that is that. See, I could even tell you about, like, you know, the 6-point star, 6. That is man. This is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be 6 masculine, right? And another 6. 1. This is a pyramid that way, which is the feminine, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's another 6. And then you have the 6 in the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is man, woman, and child, all in bondage to lawlessness. And that would be 666. Man is, you know, here, supposed to be the dominant force, but man, 666. Yeah, mankind. But, you know, that's another story for another story. But that's synthetic telepathy. And it's artificial intelligence. It's artificial communication with your brain and something that's not genuine. Like we believe that, you know, God is sending us or receive, like some people might believe God is sending them thought, or, you know, they're receiving messages from God, but they're actually downloads from a server. So you have to be mindful of who's who on this particular app, because, you know, people are set up to mislead you or to misguide you. Because, you know, when you have certain people telling you that they're talking about how you smell, or they said this about you, God want me to tell you this, that's not right. That's not right at all. Because I remember one time, Tiario, and he was so on fire for God, like everything that he did, they said, yo, these guys talking, he must be in communication with God in some form or fashion. So, you know, he was contacted, and they wanted to know, like, do you speak to God? And he was like, yeah, I feel what God feel. I heard when God heard, I heard. And he's not making YouTube videos no more. Because maybe the genuine people, they don't want them on here. They want people that they can, you know, control on here. You know. I don't know. But one thing for sure is me, I'm definitely not going to be controlled. I's definitely not going to be controlled. But you'll see in the guys on the comment on the page, the first comment, as soon as you go on the page, I'm going to leave the link in the description for that that page, and you can go and check it out for yourself, because, you know, you have people making comments, and, you know, they give their input on that. Now, we're going to get into what's called the biobanking.